You know, computers love to pick the wrong time to decide to restart, and I'm just glad that I have Windows 10, and come October, I get no more updates. I am not going to be forced to update anymore, though. Sorry, guys, a little late. How we doing, everyone out there? We are joined by Mr. Scotty B, JamBase. How we doing, Scotty?
Doing good, doing good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, love it, love it. No Phish tonight. Weird little schedule there. What did you make of the first 6 shows?
I thought they were hot. They were certainly above my expectations. I thought there was lots and lots of jamming, and it was diverse. I was very happy with the bust outs. I mean, those two things and humor are the 3 elements I most look for. So I'd like to see maybe like a little theme develop at one of these shows, you know. But I feel like they're hot right now, and certainly for this early in tour. And again, as you said, there's these weird scheduling over the course of the first 6 shows, and where are they going to be when they're playing 5 shows a week, you know, for the next 3 weeks. So I'm really excited.
Right. Yeah, definitely strange with that. I feel like with Austin, maybe they skipped a little beat because they got thrown off. They did that huge Tuesday in Pittsburgh. Then they had Wednesday off, and they ended up, you know, with the extra day off there. How we doing, Tim?
Hey, Tim.
What happened, Kev?
My computer decided to restart at 10 of.
I was sitting in the green room for like 20 minutes. Like, I was getting heated too. I thought you were like being passive aggressive and just not letting me in. I was like, I started off all cool and like cool headed, and then by the end of it, I was like, what?
Oh no! I did not do that.
Kick him out?
No, he kicked himself out. That's so funny. He pressed the wrong button. I love it. I love it. Oh man! And then you kick yourself out.
Not cool, Kev.
You did that. I didn't do that. Oh
hey,
man,
Scotty.
Hey. Just want to say I am not the founder of JamBase. I'm the editorial director of. I came in year 13 of 25.
Okay.
Been here for 12 years, but Andy Gadiel and Ted Kartzman co-founded JamBase.
Right.
I mentioned that because Andy was at least earlier watching, so just want to make sure he gets credit where credit's due.
Right. Yes, we love Andy. I'm sure that like me, you used to get up in the morning and go to his page.
It was on my
latest set list.
For my 4 years of college, it was my homepage when I booted my computer.
The proudest achievement of my wook career was getting wook+ on Andy Gadiel's Phish page.
Oh, nice.
That was like that was the crowning achievement. After that, everything was butter.
Can I ask you guys a question that's kind of something that just came up when I'm thinking about Gadiel's Phish page? I'm thinking about the 4 years of college that I had. If you could pick 4 years to go to college and a place to go to college that would perfectly align with Phish's rise. So we're talking 90s, obviously.
Yeah.
I think we all agree that that's the heyday, even though as well as they're playing now. Like, where would you want to be so that you could see the most shows, you know, over your 4 years of living there?
Boston 96 to 99, because you're close enough to all of New England and the Northeast, but you're like at a major airport, so you can also fly out and or travel. I feel like if I were like, you know, and I think later 90s for me, I don't know that was the intention, what you're saying, like with the rise, but like those were the years I would want to see, and that's the region I think I would want to live in.
Kev?
I would say the same area. I would say like New Hampshire in the early 90s. Because
Okay.
I should have gone to college from me. Wow, he just did that again. I did not do that. I went to college. I should have gone to college from fall 89 through the early 90s. I didn't go until 95. That's all you, not me.
I know I'm having a storm, so I might actually have to dip out. The weather here, we've been having tornado warnings for the last 2 days. I apologize.
Oh, that's sorry.
I'm gonna dip out and let you guys nerd out, but I just wanted to say hi one last time, Scott. Appreciate everything.
Of
Kev,
course.
good luck. I'm sorry my weather sucks.
No worries.
All
Can I
right.
just throw in my answer
Yeah.
that I've been thinking about for a long time, many years? Like, I think ideally it would have been 94 to 98. Okay. Because you get 94, you get the end of like the small years where it's still manageable, but you still get like the rise to arenas and fall 97, and I went to school in Saratoga Springs, New York, which I couldn't have been happier. I mean, Boston, you're a little north. Saratoga brings you down a little bit, puts you a little closer to the Midwest, puts you a little closer to Hampton, and so
Right.
I went to school. So my answer to that is Albany is, I
Okay.
think, centrally located, 1994 to 1998. I went to
Yep.
school 30 miles north in Saratoga Springs from 95 to 99. And I obviously didn't plan it that way, but I really think that, I got as close to, if you could go back 25 years later and pick where you would perfectly want to be for whatever, like, it's like being in San Francisco from 1969 to 1973,
Right. Probably maybe a little earlier.
Yeah.
Even though I would want to see Altamont, just out of morbid curiosity.
But I'd want to see 73, as much as I'd want to see 69 or 68.
Right. I hear you. Yes,
Yeah.
I hear you with that. Yeah, 73 would probably be the years. I would want to see without Mickey. I was born the last show that they played with Mickey in 71 was the day I was born. In February 71. With the beautiful jam. I was busy being born while they were playing that the beautiful jam thing. Yeah, so that would be crazy there. Yeah, you definitely. I was actually in college from 96 to 2000 at that's when I finally went, was at College Park in Maryland, which was good because at that point they were big enough. Every year you got either a Philly or a Washington show on the New Year's run. It was right before they started, I guess that was 94, 95. They would play like Philly. Then they would play one other show. Then they do 2 Madison shows as opposed to all 4 at a run there.
Yeah, my first New Year's run was shows number 5 through 8 for me. It was freaking wild. They started on the 28th in Philly, 29th up to Providence, 30th back to Madison Square Garden, 31st back up to Boston Garden. I mean, that's just unthinkable now in the days of all 4 nights in one city, let alone they don't even change the city ever. But that was when I was 18 years old and my parents were like, "You're doing what?" And I'm so
that year the Philly was at the Civic Center.
It was
the one time they played the Civic Center and the Little Drummer Boy Jam.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was a fantastic show. The year before that, they played Lisner on the 28th, I think, or something like that. It was somewhere in Washington.
That was another crazy. DC on the 28th, New Haven on the 29th, then Portland, Maryland on the 30th, and Worcester on the 31st.
Right.
So at least they kept it mainly. So it was like Lisner was the most far away and then it was all kind of New England.
Right. And then a couple years later, they moved to US Air, I think, was on the run there.
Yeah, just the first night, right? And then they did 3 nights at MSG in 97.
Yep. Crazy. Yeah, I think back on some of the shows, like that show was, I mean, it was an okay show, but it was kind of not memorable for me. And then a couple years later, it wasn't a New Year's run, but they played the MCI Center the one time in DC, and that was completely an unmemorable show for some reason.
I don't remember.
I mean, I know they played there. I couldn't tell you what thing they played.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so crazy. Well, all right. Let me ask you a little bit about the future. Have you seen these articles that have been popping up about ticket sales as related to Folsom, that they needed to sell 125,000 tickets for 3 days, where they sold 96,000 for 4 over the run, the Labor Day run, and they wouldn't even sell out that venue for over 4 days. Do you think that this is going to be a really undersold event in Folsom?
I think it's going to be noticeable. I think I certainly got some emails wanting me to talk to Don Strasberg. That only comes from a promoter that is looking for last minute ticket sales. So I don't think it's by any means it's going to be empty. I don't think we should be feeling bad for anybody. I think money is still going to be made, but it's definitely not going to approach even if it gets a little more than peak Dick's, it's still not going to fill the venue. It's still going to leave holes. And that was always my question from day one about this move. Was it seemed aggressive?
Right. Have you heard that it was partially because Phil passed and we were supposed to have a Grateful Dead kind of thing this weekend at Folsom? Had you heard that?
I hadn't heard that.
I heard that somewhere that the plan was to do a 3-day Grateful Dead thing, 60th thing at Folsom over 4th of July. But since that didn't happen, they asked Phish if they would, move their thing. I don't know if you noticed, all the venues on this tour are non-Live Nation venues. They aren't playing any Live Nation venues the whole tour.
SPAC isn't considered a Live Nation venue?
Maybe it is. I'll have to look that up. I think when we went through this earlier that we decided that none of them were.
I'm pretty sure SPAC is, but certainly Forest Hills is not. Man is not.
Right. Chicago is owned by the MSG guy.
Right. Pittsburgh is not. Columbus is not. Yeah, I guess that all plays out. Yeah. Besides that,
it's interesting to me. So I got some numbers here from the Dead and Company back in 2016. AEG spent $250,000 just to rent Folsom Field in 2016 for Dead and Company. Apparently the college made almost $750,000 off of those Dead and Company shows. So, but Dead and Company also has a bigger name. I mean, I'm sorry you're getting people to show up for Dead and Company that are not showing up for Phish.
Yeah, I mean, I get, and it's also, I think Dead and Company, certainly Colorado is peak Dead and Company area, but at the same time, Phish isn't really playing any other shows in the mountain area. So you would have thought that it would be a gathering, but people are hesitant to change and maybe got very used to Dick's, and the thought of, changing it to Boulder wasn't appealing to them. That said, we'll see. It could all change. We could be surprised by the walk-ins the day of people tomorrow. We could be surprised when they play a Tweezer Fest that spans a whole show tomorrow, and then people start flying in on Friday and Saturday. So
they are. Yeah, they got to throw down. They got to throw down tomorrow night to get people to do that. On 4th of July, we also have there's a big show at Red Rocks. Did you see that?
The Jerry Garcia Symphonic Celebration?
No, it's Blues Traveler and Spin Doctor.
Right, and Gin Blossoms, right?
Right, the Gin Blossoms.
Yeah, the Blues Traveler has been, that was dumb of me. Blues Traveler has held down July 4th at Red Rocks since 93, I believe.
I saw them there in 94. The only time I've ever seen Widespread Panic was in 94. They opened for Blues Traveler at Red Rocks. Many, many years ago.
Do you just not like Widespread Panic?
The guy's voice didn't do it for me, and there was Phish, and then I started. Actually, what happened was the next year in 95, I went to New Orleans for the first time. Okay. And it was Galactic and the Radiators, and I immersed myself in that for the next 10 years.
Sure.
And then when I finally came to, Phish had broken up a second time. It had broken up once and then broken up a second time. So, I've grown more to like it. I watched that whole show when Billy Strings came out and sat in with him for that second set. And, I've always been a Jimmy Herring fan. Aquarium Rescue Unit was one of the greatest things in the world to me back in the mid-90s. Awesome. That was Prime Panic, William. Oh, man. Oh, you saw Galactic at One-Eye Jacks on your 21st. That's fantastic. Galactic used to be one of my favorite things. Well, let's go a little further with, obviously, I think Phish is going to turn out okay with the they'll make some money. It'll work out for them. But let's what about something like Bonnaroo got canceled? Now they're talking about maybe doing it every other year. High Sierra almost didn't happen. It's going to happen, but there was a point where they were 2 weeks ago where they were like, maybe this isn't going to happen. What do you think of the state of festivals? Are there too many festivals these days?
I think that it's hard to be creative with the lineups, with how much these acts charge. And I think that is kind of the big, I don't think that there's too many per se, but it's harder and harder. Bands, at this point, a lot of bands depend on festival season for the bulk of their income. And so they're taking the biggest offers that they can get. And, when you have Live Nation getting into it and being able to pay these bands, and then they've got radius clauses that don't allow them to play at independent festivals, it's a really tough time to be an independent festival promoter.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is interesting. The Hampton run, God Street's doing a couple extra shows. Lowe is one of my favorite people. Hopefully I get him to talk. But there's something in Annapolis, Maryland that weekend that they announced called the Baygrass Festival.
Sure.
It looks like it has this incredible lineup, and I'm probably going to that and not Hampton because it's a hell of a lot closer and I can come home each night. But I guess I feel like there's a lot of oversaturation, and some of what you said is the way they're trying to curate them. They want to have these huge names instead of, doing something maybe like Hookahville does, where Acoustic Hookah, if you like Acoustic Hookah, you're going to go to Hookahville, but the rest of the bands nobody ever heard of. Hopefully, though, you walk away and say, wow, I really like that band. Like Jazz Fest. Jazz Fest in New Orleans is beautiful because you walk by and you just stop. You might not make it to see the bands you were going to because someone stops you in your tracks that you've never heard of.
I also think weather plays a huge role in it. And I mean, look, Bonnaroo, they didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't their fault that the weather was terrible, and High Sierra often deals with very high temperatures and during the day and very low temperatures at night. Considering that the festival audience is kind of aging up, people want more comfortable experiences, and at the same time, only few of us have the money to be shelling out for super VIP packages, and so the audience for these festivals has become smaller, and I don't see it increasing from younger music fans.
Right. Coachella had trouble selling tickets. Electric Forest the week before was like, please buy some tickets from us. There's an economic thing. There's the what do they call it? The kitchen table issues of, if you're going to have to spend $600 just for tickets to see Dead & Company plus stay there, you're only going to one thing all summer. It's not like, for $600, I bought every ticket in 1989 for summer tour for the Dead, And then for another $600, you can make it on the road.
I can't believe how much Phish tickets are these days. I mean,
I know. Over $100 with fees.
Over 150 for some. And I mean, how could I feel like they want to appeal to a younger group of fans, but I'm sure it was similar for you. When I was 16 years old and go to see Phish for the first time, the Dead were also playing at Giant Stadium, and I went to those shows, and there were plenty of people that were 30 and 40-year-olds, but there was also thousands that were my age, that were 15 or 16, 17, 18. And that's because the tickets were $35 to $38, which at the time was, I'd probably say, comparable to about $70 now, right, but not 110,
Right.
I could have never afforded that as a 16-year-old.
I think Clifford Ball, whatever the tickets were, the camping thing, you had to buy one per car or whatever, and that was $20 to buy the ticket for the camping for everyone. So
I think it was $75 per night. I think it was $150 for the Clifford Ball ticket and $20 for the camping. But it's not fully on the bands. There's insurance is expensive as hell, thanks to COVID.
And Live Nation and Ticketmaster are a huge middleman, and they are just eating up more and more of the pie. I see a lot of local, like smaller independent venues are like where we used to make $1 off every ticket. Now we're making 30 cents.
Right.
It's
tough, and I hope it improves for this industry that I love.
I'm so with you. It worries me a lot. Phish was $26.50 in '97. That's right, Michael. Exactly. I look back at like my first Dead ticket was I think $18.50, and it was Tom Petty, then Dylan and Petty, and then the Grateful Dead for $18.50.
But I'll say we're talking about the bad. Got to also talk about the good. And I saw Goose make their MSG headlining debut on Saturday night, and it was a beautiful experience. I expected it to be a lot of people dipping their toes to see what this Goose thing was all about, but that wasn't the case. It seemed to me, at least in my view, it was lots of people that had found this band over the past 7 or 8 years, and we're excited to celebrate this huge achievement with them. For all the killer jams that they did in that 4-hour show, my favorite part was when they played Give It Time, and the song that's like 14 months old that everyone around me was singing at the top of their lungs. I mean, it was just great to see. It was great, again, for this music industry that I love. It was great to see a band that did it, and, fans that appreciate it. They are so far from an overnight success. They are now 11 years in, and, they definitely, because of what happened in 2019 and early 2020, they got to skip a step, which many bands don't get to do, but they've gone through every level normally besides that, So I give them
A+ for how they worked COVID. Them and Billy Strings both played COVID like masters, having the live streams and all of that.
Agreed.
Was it a true sellout?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that wasn't sold, that they didn't sell some of the sections behind the stage, but other than that, every ticket that they put on sale, they sold, and it seemed like it. Everywhere I looked, I couldn't spot an empty seat. I was very impressed.
It seemed like a great play too that they went long. I mean, they played an incredibly long show. Apparently, blew past curfew.
I did. I saw the set times. I saw an email with the set times that were pretty normal, 7:45 to, I believe, 9:15, and then 9:45 to 11:30. So I don't know what changed, but we got an extra hour of music, and that's pretty cool.
Well, what they did was, I mean, from what we've heard, like Matt Bush explained to us once, that you can go to the venue and be like, how much does it cost to go over? And they're like, $1,000 a minute. You're like, all right, here's a check for $20,000 ahead of time. Let your people know, or whatever the price is, which is worth it because it has people talking. I mean, Blue Sky is just all aflutter with people still talking about the Goose MSG show.
Yeah. I get it. I get it. And it's worthy, in my opinion. It was really impressive.
Right. It totally. It is amazing that, I think about, they were playing the 8x10. They were opening for Pigeons. Goose was in 2019. Pigeons hasn't changed where they were. They're still selling the same number of tickets there. I guess it helps to have friends, though. I mean, Shapiro likes them, and, kind of took them under their wing.
I never understood that. Shapiro likes a lot of bands. There's only so much he can do. I mean,
right. Well, that's the myth of it.
I think that's overblown, in my opinion.
Right. I hear you. So are they going to be back at MSG again? I guess they will do that.
I think 100%. I'd be shocked, and I'd say 2 nights next time. I don't know if they'll sell it out.
Right. How do you go though? For what is that hold? 20,000 probably MSG does without behind the stage. Let's say 17,000.
Yeah, that
normally where most places they play are 5,000 seat venues. Is it just the lure of New York City, or is it also the market that they can drag in that many more people?
I think it's the market. I saw them play last September at PNC Bank Art Center in Holmdel, New Jersey, and don't quote me on this, but I think they sold about 11,000 tickets to that show. Okay. And that was a random Sunday night of Labor Day weekend in the middle of New Jersey. So when you add in the MSG factor, when you add in that they didn't oversaturate the market leading up to it, I think that it makes sense. So I think the next time you will get more of the people dipping their toes in here. Oh, wow, I heard they crushed it last time. And,
get the myth. You're right. That's why you pay to do the extra time the first time. Because people were like, the last time they played there, my God, did you see what they did?
It was just crazy to me that they had played a show the next night in Connecticut. It's like you would have thought that they would give themselves a night to bask in the afterglow of that, monumental night. But good on them for, getting one more show in before they went home for a few months.
Right. Stuart Bogey, someone mentioned Stuart Bogey coming out. He is, I've got to speak to him before. He's a really cool guy. And a lot of what he did with Antibolus and all that. Wasn't he an Antibolus, right?
He was, yeah.
Yes. Maybe he still is. I don't know if Antibolus tours anymore. What do you think of, what do you make of Goose's new album compared to their last one? I feel like this last album they kind of nailed it, whereas I was not that big on the Dripfield album, the one before that. I felt it felt a little sterile to me. I feel like this new album is fantastic of theirs. The Dustin Hoffman song is just wow.
I really like the production on this album. I thought the songs on the Dripfield album were incredible. They didn't always translate to the studio, but they've certainly translated live.
Right.
Hunger Sight and Dripfield and Animal among my favorites. But yeah, I just think Give It Time is perhaps the best non-jam vehicle song that they've written. And, I wouldn't be lying if I got a little tear in my eye as everyone's singing along at the top of their lungs to this 1-year-old song. And, it was good. I mean, I first saw them in 2020 at the 500 Cap Music Hall of Williamsburg. And so JamBase has written a lot of articles about them. So, I take some pride in what they've accomplished. Right. And so I can only imagine how they feel and how the fans that have been seeing them for 10 years feel.
Right. My first Goose show, I've only seen Goose 3 times, maybe 4, 3 times at least, was at 930 Club. And then, the next time they can never play the 930 Club. That was like, I think it was one of those shows that was booked and then they started to blow up, kind of thing. And like, hey, this one's already on the books. I guess that was like 21. It was Mardi Gras because they opened up with Little Liza Jane. It was on a Fat Tuesday. So, I have always had so much fun seeing Goose. I watched the first 10 shows of this tour and I really struggled to get through the whole streams every night sitting home. It wasn't like watching a Phish stream at home where I guess I'm just that much more familiar with Phish. Maybe that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Goose guy. I see them. I try to see them 2 or 3 times a year, and I probably listen to as many shows. But I think keeping it in moderation is what helps me enjoy it.
I hear you. What do you make of Phish playing this Bourbon and Beyond to do their late summer tour or whatever they're calling it?
Yeah, I think that was probably a massive payday. And God, gave them a chance to play Louisville, an area that's always had a little extra meaning to them. I mean, I remember when they broke out Shaggy Dog there in '95. I think that was the only one in like a 10 or 15 year span.
Right.
And, it's a loaded lineup. The organizer.
How did they do that? How do you have that lineup? That's millions and millions of dollars for that lineup. I don't see them selling enough tickets to pay for the lineup.
It's because it's such a huge venue with big sight lines that you could fit a lot of people comfortably in.
Right.
That allows them the capacity to sell tickets at a somewhat reasonable price and recoup the money that they're paying to artists.
Yeah, we get to go back to Hampton. Hampton has such a storied relationship with the band. Kind of excited for that. I think that's going to be some huge shows for them.
I always loved Alpharetta. I love that place. And it'll be interesting to see what this Birmingham amphitheater is all about.
Yeah, I thought it was strange that the Birmingham came on the weekend and the Alpharetta came in the middle of the week, the way they set it up. I would have thought it would have been reversed just by venue size,
Me too. It was probably a scheduling thing. Somebody was probably booked at one of the two venues that.
Well, one of the two other ones, right? They have that new venue in Richmond that's owned by, I guess, some of the people in Phish's management or something are connected with it. I kept hearing shows were going to be there. I was hoping that happened because that place looks pretty neat. It doesn't look like it has good parking, but the venue itself looks neat.
I would be very surprised if they don't play there next summer.
Yeah, there'll be a Tuesday, Wednesday there, I'm sure. Yeah. No more Merriweather. I wonder if they'll ever play Merriweather again. It's been since 22, I guess was the last time.
Yeah. Which isn't the longest time in the world. It's certainly possible. I mean, look, it seemed like Bethel was done until it wasn't. And then 2 out of 3 years after going 10 years without it.
Right. So, speaking of Merriweather, what'd you make of how All Good did things? That seemed to work out very successfully for Tim Walther and the All Good people, having it at the venue.
I agree. I think that is, look, with the festivals having such a hard time in many cases, you've got to adapt and you've got to be creative. So let's hold a festival at a venue that has all of the logistics, all of the creature comforts, everything kind of baked in, and you don't have to deal with the camping. That appeals to people that are aging up with these jam bands. And so I think it was a really smart move. And, I really thought it was beautiful that they gave all the artists who had performed at past All Goods, like plaques saying like All Good alumni, 1999, 2000, 2025. So I think that's definitely an inventive way of continuing to do festivals, is essentially put them on at established venues that have all of the infrastructure built in, and you're less reliant on the weather. You less reliant on having to house everyone.
Right. Yeah. I camped at Mondegreen, and I keep thinking back that was a year ago. And what was I thinking, except that I was just too cheap to rent an RV? Oh man, and I wasn't leaving. Tim, I must say, Tim has been such a figure, a figure in the scene for so long, and he's kept it going. He has that other festival, 4848, I guess, that is up in the mountains in West Virginia or somewhere up there, and that looks fantastic too. He's smart. He's always been adapting. I can remember meeting him before he even started doing, promoting shows at a Wilmers Park show, and him telling us how he was going to start putting on shows at Wilmers Park, like whatever we were at. It was the Back to Books Boogie or something they called it, with the Jello Boys and, the Next Step and those kind of bands. Solar Circus might have been the headliner, Jersey Jerry.
And it certainly helps that he's got the relationships with those bands and that he manages or seems to manage Dark Star Orchestra and could throw them into any mix when he's got one of these events.
Mm-hmm. Yup. Definitely. All right. Well, let's go beyond Boulder. They do the Columbus the one night, and then we're going to hit a run at the end of the tour where we're getting the 5 shows, the weekend and then the Tuesday, Wednesday there. Do we continue the trajectory of the second set having the twist parts of that tweezer when they went back into it? What's going through your mind when they're getting into this almost sludge rock that I feel like is a new space for them, almost that they're leaning into it so much?
I think so. I think that's one of the trends that we've seen since Phish's beginning is when they start doing something fresh in a tour and then do it a second time and a third time in a tour, it's likely they'll master it by the end of the tour and perhaps forget about it the next tour.
Right. There you go. What do you think about, Trey's kid's getting married to one of the guys from Gorilla Toss, and Gorilla Toss has been up in the barn. I mean, I
didn't know that was the connection.
Yes, that's what it is. His daughter is marrying the guitar player from Gorilla Toss, and I'm friends with Peter. He told me April of last year that they were at the barn with Stephen Markmus recording their new album, and it took them 14 months before the stuff actually started coming out. But I'm wondering how much of Trey just hanging out, lurking, because obviously he played on the Angry Bulls single, the Red Flag single that they put out. I wonder how much of that goes into the back of Trey's head and then shows up when he goes out on stage and plays. He's hearing all these heavier sounds and things like that.
Look, he is definitely a product of his environment. Think of summer 2015 when he
right.
The Dead Camp stuff, when he was preparing for Fare Thee Well, how all those tones made it into those jams that summer.
Right, and the album that came out, it was the bass player guys. You're right. The album, the Big Boat album, how you could tell even with the songwriting that Marshall and Trey were doing, like Blaze On was a different kind of thing, a more blues-based idiom that they didn't normally hit.
I'll be really interested now that these songs from Evolve are 2 or 3 years old. I feel like the next batch is coming soon. It'll be interesting to see exactly how they're presented. Maybe, Trey Band is opening for Dead and Company. Maybe there'll be more Trey Band, and I could see the next. It's think of how long it's been since Trey's debuted a series of songs through Trey Band. I mean, he did it through the Evolve songs were through the trio, or through the when it was him and Phish and Desron. So it's been a long time since a series of songs came through the band with the full horns, and I could see that happening. And
I do not like the post. I guess it's the Beacon Run that did this when Trey did those weekly shows during COVID. That so many Phish songs, it's like basically seeing Phish when you go see Trey Band now, whereas in like a 2001, 2002, you got so many of those other, It
was like separation of church and state. It was like there was Trey repertoire and there was Phish repertoire. I'm with you on that. And I think it was definitely COVID, and it was definitely the quartet as opposed to having the full horns. It's been a long time since we've seen much from the full horn section.
It has.
Let's see, because of rest in peace, James Casey. So let's see what happens when the Trey, if that still becomes the thing when the full Trey Band gets back together.
Right now, do we know if we're getting horns in California for the Dead and Company thing?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, it would have been announced as Classic Tab if it was just the quartet, I believe.
Right. Shouldn't Classic Tab be a trio? Just saying.
Yeah.
In 99, they were a trio,
But I do like it better with Ray, so I'm not complaining.
Yes. Right. Yeah, it wouldn't be the same a trio without Tony there. without it being Tony and Ross doing that. Do we get sit-ins? Do you think Billy, the night he opens, sits in, Sturgill sits in, Trey sits in with them the nights they open?
Yes, but I'm leaning 55%. I don't. So, in other words, I don't feel strongly about it. I could totally see it not happening, but I do think it's more likely it will happen,
right,
than won't. But I don't think
right.
it's a given by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. It's very interesting that they chose to have opening bands for that run to me instead of it just being, straight Dead and Company every night.
Absolutely, and I don't know if they needed it to sell out.
No, I don't think
so. I think it just makes it extra special, and I think Trey totally wants to help celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Grateful Dead without having to commit to being in the band for 3 shows, and so the ability to come rip on Althea or whatnot, I mean that sounds great to me.
I'll tell you, one of the standouts from the Fare Thee Well shows was Trey singing "Standing on the Moon." Completely nailed it. I'm sad that he's never done that again. It was like a one-time thing he did there, and but he so nailed that.
And he did that. I think Hornsby may have sung it, but he did it as a duet with Hornsby in 2005 at one of those Jerry. It was something at the Greek in Berkeley, I believe. Some Jerry tribute that I believe Trey took part in and only did a few songs, and one of the few things he did was a duet with Hornsby on "Standing on the Moon." So that would definitely be great.
Right. What do you think of this Hornsby Eggy thing?
I think that's amazing. I think that's. I'm so stoked for that. I hope to see a few shows. Right.
Eggy is going to get an education watching what Hornsby does every night and getting. I guess they're planning on interaction. Some of the Eggy guys might come out, or Hornsby's going to come out and play with them every night. I'm excited for that. I think they're playing a DC show. I'm going to have to try to go see that. Eggy is on a trajectory. Them and Dogs in a Pile, I feel like, are the two contenders now.
I haven't felt as old as I felt at a Dogs in the Pile show, which I love. It's about time I go to a jam band show and feel old.
I watched the Mountain Jam set, and simply fantastic. Molly Tuttle came out with them. They did New Speedway, just a ripping New Speedway. That's become a very I guess popular cover for bands to do. But Molly Tuttle, fantastic. Do you like the new band? Have you listened to the new band?
I haven't had a chance to listen to or see the new band, but I'm familiar with the players, and they're all sick. Right. I did love Golden Highway, but I'm down with her. It was a good run for them. So I'm down with her moving forward. But I look forward to seeing her.
I saw them at Mountain Jam. I watched the whole Mountain Jam thing. Shout out to volume.com who are doing fantastic work with the free streams. I mean, you have to give them your info and have an account, but you don't have to pay anything. You can, watch whatever they do. So saw so many Nectar shows before they closed on there. But Molly, the band is, it was the newer songs, did a couple Golden Highway songs, did a choice cover, She's a Rainbow, which I guess Golden Highway has played over the years. But the thing that was crazy to me, which I had no idea with her, is that she has alopecia. And she took like her wig off and sang the last couple songs. And I was like, wow, you go, girl. Such a power move on her part.
100%.
Totally own it, I always felt bad. My oldest kid got vitiligo at some point. So she had like splotches on her elbows and her knees. And she was so self-conscious about that. And I always felt so bad for her. I was like, you're still beautiful, kid.
Exactly.
Don't worry about it. I love it. So we got a few. Go ahead.
I don't know if we get a Neil minute during this, but I would love to hear your opinion about how the first 6 shows of Neil Young and the Chrome Hearts tour has gone.
I have not been able to catch any of it. I saw that he busted out Ambulance Blues though for the first time.
Yeah,
I got to see. I've seen some of what he's done with the Chrome Hearts. I mean, obviously the band is basically the Real from Lucas Nelson and the Real. He just took everybody but Lucas, right? Isn't that basically?
Well, yeah, except Micah isn't actually in Promise of the Real, so it's the rhythm section from Promise of the Real,
right.
And Micah, but most importantly on organ, the Spencer. God, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name, but a legend from the Muscle Shoals Sound Studio days.
Spooner
Oldham. Yeah. Sorry, but
great name. How can I forget Spooner?
And during Ambulance Blues, Spooner sounds so fantastic, and I love Neil having just a pure organist in the band.
Right. I find it really interesting that this tour is going as well as it is. And last year with Crazy Horse, I mean, they were doing so fantastic, and the thing fell apart. What, like 6-7 shows into the tour?
Yeah,
something like. I guess it was somebody else in the band just wasn't up to it. Maybe.
Sickness. Yeah.
COVID popped up, and all that. I love Crazy Horse. Seen him a bunch of times, but seeing Neil Young with a band like Chrome Hearts really, I feel like allows him access to his whole catalog instead of chunks of it that you aren't going to get. The more acoustic leaning things and stuff like that.
Yeah, the last 3 set lists before last night when he broke out Ambulance Blues were getting very similar. I was wondering if that was the end for Neil really changing it up, but thankfully he got back to Ambulance Blues, and we'll see. There's still plenty of time, and then got all the North American shows. I'm really excited.
Dylan's been, Dylan does a pretty standard set list, but he's been throwing things like Times There Are Changing the other night. Got to Serve Somebody he did at some point, which is fascinating that he's still out there. He's playing Merriweather on Outlaw tour sometime in September. I'm going to have to take my kid. She's never seen him. I feel like if I don't take her this time, who knows?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, with Sly and Brian Wilson going within 2 days of each other, no one's safe.
Yeah, that is so crazy. So crazy. Dylan's arrangements. Have you listened to any of the recent? I mean, I guess the past few years, some of the songs are. You don't even realize what song it is until like the chorus, because he's completely rearranged the way he's doing it.
I mean, I kind of love his cavalier fuck it attitude when it comes to that. And some things don't hit my ear, but the arrangement of Watchtower he's doing this tour is fucking sick. It was so great to hear Billy get to shred on that.
Kind of calls more back to the Nashville Skyline version than the way he retooled it after Hendrix did it.
Very true.
Which I really dig. God, I love Dylan so much. People pan the poor guy because of the way he sings and all, but I mean, come on. It's Bob Dylan.
He's never pandered, and I respect the hell out of that.
Yep. First time I saw him was my first Dead show. He had Tom Petty as his backing band back in '86, and wow. Just he was out of it then. He was in all leather. He was in head to toe black leather, long sleeves and pants, and it was 100 degrees. Like, what are you doing, dude? Oh man. So we got some repeats, a couple in Austin. I guess they're coming, but I feel like there's a lot left on the table that they didn't play over the first 6 shows to show up. Simple. They didn't do a gin right. They haven't done a gin yet.
I think we're gonna start getting more, but I agree with that. I've heard you, and I'm a fan of the show. I've listened and watched a lot. I give a lot of credit to what you and Tim and T and everyone do so often. So just want to say that if you haven't subscribed, hit that like button. Go do that now. But I remember when Dead Tour, during the final Dead Tour, talking a lot about how you felt the band needed to play songs multiple times. That's really how they get the best feel for it. And I think that's true with Phish as well. And so
theme over the past few years has been 6-7 times a year, and it's become a monster.
Exactly. I remember the one at the MSG summer run in '04, I guess it was, 24. Was just funky as hell and just completely different. And that's what it's all about to me. I mean, I love the straightforward jams, but them reinventing songs that I've heard the same way every time and just one night playing it completely different. That's just for me right in my sweet spot.
Right. Just don't slow down my maze. Well, we don't need that nonsense.
No doubt.
People were big on that. I didn't quite click for me there. Interesting for one night. Something
that I didn't hear lots of people talking about, but I was blown away. Talk about like a straightforward version that was just played to the hilt. Was the mics from I believe First Night in Austin. Was just like everything I want in a mics. It even kind of toyed with Type 2 Second Jam territory.
Yeah.
Well, not fully going there, but it's just a great example of just what 42 years of playing together can lead to. It's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. My God, yeah. The Weekapa seems like it's a step slower.
Yeah, they that seems to be with intention.
Yeah.
I'll be
the one in Mexico was slow. The one in Mexico this year was slow.
Yeah.
It's the last two were faster than that. They did one on Spring Tour. They obviously did the one recently there. But yeah, it feels like it's a little slower there. You're old. What can you do? But I can't say that because you turn around and they'll do a bluegrass tune where they just completely rip it.
Right. Yeah. Can't believe they played Paul and Silas. That's one of two songs that they played, one of three songs that they played at my first show, which was the Beacon Theater in 1994, that I still, in 360 shows, have yet to see again. Paul and Silas, If I Only Had a Brain, which I'll probably never see again, and Landlady. I've actually never seen Landlady a second time.
Wow. When I when I used to see them in bars, there was a point, I guess in 1990, where I saw Landlady open every show, like for 5 shows that I saw in a row. And not everyone. The Popper came out and did. Remember that song that they wrote from part of Reba? Trey took an extra section of Reba and wrote a song with John Popper.
Yeah, Don't Get Me
You Don't
Wrong.
Love Me or something. I don't know what it wasn't called. You Don't Love Me. Yeah, but 91 was it? Was it 91 that they did that?
Yeah, or 90. I think it was November 90.
Yeah, which was weird because I was like, why is John Popper here? He was at the Bayou. I was like, what is that guy doing here? Oh, man. That's crazy, the Popper and Spin Doctors and the Gin Blossoms. I know we mentioned that earlier, but that just we did this whole episode once of Live when we used to do the theme things, that it was a multiverse episode, and Spin Doctors were Phish. Spin Doctors became this huge band that everyone toured to see, but Phish didn't. Phish had been relegated to what like the Spin Doctors are. So that would be an interesting world there. We got a 20-minute Prince.
Yeah. I saw an interview with Chris Barron last year where he said he doesn't envy Phish and he would never want to be that big. And bullshit, man. Like, you guys were huge in 1993. You played that tour with Screaming Trees, like totally tried to get away from the jam scene and make the most of, your success. You let Cleopatra's Cat kind of sucked, and like it didn't work out the way that you hoped it would. Don't rewrite history and tell me you're glad it didn't happen for you like Phish. I mean,
right. Well, what do you do at that point, though? I think Phish was smart. They were just like, we're in our own little world.
Yeah, 100%. But
and by 9, I remember turning around at the Clifford Ball during Divided Sky, and I was at the taper section, and turning around and looking at all those people and just being like, wow, we made it. I think that's how Goose fans, I bet that's how a lot of Goose fans felt at MSG, looking around like, we made it, we did it.
I would agree with that.
So the Goose Festival in Mexico, it's a popular thing for bands to do that. So many people. Dave Matthews announced. I guess Wilco does something, but that seemed like it was a really interesting thing. The way they planned that and did that with the other bands.
Agreed. Going back to bring us full circle to the start of this conversation, it's really their management company, 1111, leaning in on their roster and throwing everyone on their roster onto the bill to make it a more compelling lineup. And when you got Pigeons and Dogs and LP Joby and
then you got the more mainstream bands, the Dolls, that weren't necessarily,
War on Drugs.
Right, War on Drugs, pushing the boundary a little bit. Something that, you might like if you're a Goose. You just might not know about,
Right, absolutely. No, it obviously worked out really well. It seems like it's going well in year
tickets
2.
On sale, right? Aren't tickets on sale for next year already?
Yeah, and they blew through the phase 1. I don't know how many phase 1 tickets there were, but I saw lots of complaints of phase 1, tier 1 tickets were gone in 30 seconds, and $100 more tier 2 tickets. So good for them.
Right. I sometimes look where the hate of the people towards Goose, and I'm like, it isn't really my cup of tea, but good for them. I want to see everybody succeed. I want to see these guys, get the payday. It's so hard out there. So many bands cancel their tours and things like that, and Mike Dillon, I saw he posted something like a year ago. One show got canceled. The tour went from making money to breaking even. DJ Williams had his show in New York canceled, and he was, on Facebook talking about how disappointing it was because people didn't buy tickets ahead of time.
Yeah. No, that if you want your bands to succeed that you love, buy tickets in advance,
Right. What are we hearing in give me real quick, what are you looking to see them do in Boulder? What do you think? I want to not that I like Sea of Stars very much, but I think it would be really cool for them to do Sea of Stars at the open field in Folsom, that close to heaven.
I fully agree. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what the next Tweezer sounds like after that last one.
Where we got a full on 30 minutes worth of Tweezer and a Tweezer Fest all mixed together.
I'd love to see them either break out or debut a classic rock cover that everyone knows that just turns into a big party.
Right, Green Eyed Lady. They teased it a few years ago. Yes, I could totally hear Paige singing that.
Yeah. Or even, if we're talking, I've always wondered how Phish has never covered Steely Dan. Maybe it's time.
Right. Well, and they played the night that Walter died, and they didn't even do a cover of it years ago. Oh man, Scotty, thank you. Sorry about me being a few minutes late there.
No worries. I'm going to invest in a better webcam, everyone. I've noticed the blown out shot here. So
right. Well, you have the same. You're lucky they weren't making fun like they were when Scott Marks was one, and they were like, "Is Scott okay there?" Because the way it was so bright.
Yeah. So it's always a pleasure. Keep up the great work to you, T, and to everyone to look and
I'm trying to push the boundaries a little bit. I've been doing other things, recaps of festivals. We did a Jerry Garcia top 9 songs you didn't know he played on. It's gotten over 21,000 views. I'm like, why that one? Where did that come from?
People love the listicles.
Yes, they do. They do. Definitely. Inside secret there. We're looking at 1 million views, I think, by the end of tour for the channel finally.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Personal goal. All right. We definitely have to stay in touch and get you back on maybe sometime in the fall. I love talking to you so much. Thank you for everything you do too, man. JamBase is an invaluable resource to me. You guys are always on top of things, and the guys you have writing for you, provide some really good insight. There's some nuggets in there sometimes. You're like, I like that. I guess that would include you as a writer too.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And with this tour in particular, we're really excited about some of the writers that we've got, both that have already written, like Benji, and some exciting names that have never written for us before. But I think people will be surprised in the weeks to come.
Yep. All right, hang on for me. Hang on for a minute for me. Everybody, if you're watching this later, make sure you like and subscribe. Think about becoming a member. You're watching this later, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Everybody watching live, thank you. You guys mean the world to us. We couldn't do it without you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, we'll see you after the show tomorrow night for the After Phish After Show. I played the wrong thing. That's funny. Jeez, we already talked about Neil Young. Everyone.